So I've got some bad news and some good news. I'll start with the good news and then we'll get into the bad news afterwards. So good news, as a Christmas celebration to say thank you to all of you who have watched and supported Am I the Jerk over the last year, and to celebrate the launch of our brand new channel, Am I the Genius, we are doing a massive Christmas giveaway. 12 days of Christmas. For 12 days straight, we are drawing a winner for each day to give a $100 Amazon gift card every day to someone. So there will be 12 winners, just as a thank you and to ask that you go check out Am I the Genius. Now, if you want to enter into this officially, check out the pinned tweet on our official Twitter. You do not need to have a Twitter account. That's just where the link is. So you can enter without a Twitter. That's just to have all of it in one place in the pinned tweet. When you go to enter the giveaway, there are a bunch of ways to enter. Each one of those things that you do will give you more and more entries, thus giving you more chances of winning. But just going there at all to enter is already an entry. There's more details down below in the description, so check that out. And also check out Am I the Genius, which besides saying thank you is the whole reason we're doing this. Okay, so one other thing. If you've watched this channel for a long time while on YouTube, you've probably noticed that we have never once done a sponsored video on this YouTube channel ever. Despite many people asking us to do one, and despite pretty much every channel you've ever watched doing one as soon as they get 1,000 subscribers. Not exactly at that point, but early on is what I'm trying to say. And it might not stay that way forever, but if you'd like to help us keep it that way for a little bit longer, please consider becoming a YouTube member for only 99 cents. We made it as cheap as it would allow us to make it so no one would be excluded. And if you become a member for 99 cents, you'll be able to use these emojis in the comments. Jerk, not a jerk, Karen, and this guy. You remember this guy. These emojis are pretty nice if you're trying to decide jerk or not a jerk, and you can actually have an emoji to say which one you decide on for each story. Anyway, if you want to do it, thank you very much, and if not, no problem at all. We'll still keep making videos for you guys regardless. So to recap the good news before we jump into the bad news, number one, join the 12 Days of Christmas giveaway. With that many winners chosen, there's no reason not to enter. You could be one of them. Number two, Am I the Genius is finally live. Please give it a chance. We spent a lot of time on it. It's linked in the description, of course. And number three, become a member for 99 cents to have access to these cool emojis and just help us keep going. Okay, now for the bad news. A lot of you guys know on my personal YouTube channel, I tell stories from my own life, and this most recent one we actually animated. This is probably one of the things you guys have loved almost more than anything we've ever put out. The story about when I was on a drive-by, which is the footage that you're looking at in the background now. So as a ton of you guys know, part two was already supposed to be out by now, and the bad news is we are nowhere near it being done, nor do we even have a time frame on it. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about this. I see the comments update on it every single day, but there really isn't an update or a time frame. As I'm sure a lot of you guys know, doing animations like this takes a ton of time. Obviously in the animation itself, but even just getting the video together, there's a lot of moving pieces to it. I know it's disappointing, but as soon as it's ready, I will let you guys know. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll show a little clip of the video right now. I started touring in a band around the time I was 15 years old. I was in a bunch of bands, but the first band I really started doing a lot with was a punkish band, Trees. The drummer of Trees was my friend Shane. We used to be in two separate bands that briefly toured together also, but then he joined Trees. And this is where this story starts. After one of the Trees practice sessions, Shane told me he met some guy online named Ryan, who way back then was internet famous. He was older than us and wanted to put together a metal band, or a metalcore or hardcore metal band. So Shane wanted to know if I could play metal. The goal was to gear up for this longer tour that this band that didn't currently exist would go on, that this guy Ryan, who I had never met, would book. So I asked Shane, why would this guy Ryan, the singer, screamer, want us to be in his band and we're not even in the same state? Shane said, he's under house arrest. He stabbed some guy or something and now he has an ankle bracelet so he can't leave his house. We'd have to drive to California, but he would pay for the gas and give us food. At this point in my life, I was so hungry, so desperate to make something happen, I didn't even question it. So I said, I'm in. Shane said he knew this guy Cody from the hardcore scene, and this guy had a truck, and he was also going to be in the band, the other guitar player. We practiced at this guy Cody's house a couple of times to learn the songs, and then the next weekend, the three of us and some other random guy, a friend of Cody's, got into a truck and drove to California for the first time. I didn't really know them at all, so it was like going on a road trip with total strangers, but I knew Shane, our drummer, so we drive the 4.5–5 hours to get to Ryan's house in California. I guess it was his mom's house. We set up all the gear pretty much right away and start practicing. It was the first time we ever heard Ryan scream. He didn't really seem very interested in how the music sounded when we practiced, which caught me by surprise. He seemed more interested in knowing if we could write new songs, probably so we can get out an EP. And honestly, Ryan ended up seeming like a decent guy when we met him. He kept his word, he gave Cody money for gas right away, and he handed us some sandwiches that his mom made. There was water too, but the water had little floating specks in it, so I didn't drink any. He told us a little bit more about why he was under house arrest and how long it had been. And then he told us about this tour he wanted us to go on before we even met each other. The way the timing would have worked out in the future would have been so that he himself couldn't even go because he would still be under house arrest. So he said that somebody would fill in on screaming for him and he would manage the tour from his computer. It was weird. He was very straight edge and obsessed with getting more followers even way back then. He had this whole routine of waking up at a certain time and doing this checklist of stuff in order to maximize his following. And this is way back in the day, way before every 4-year-old in the world wanted to be an influencer. It was the first time I'd ever seen something like that, and it was pretty eye-opening. It seemed like he was making things happen. So we practiced that day until we went to sleep, and then the same thing the next day all day until we had to drive home. At the time, I was also working as a chess teacher for a chess company for elementary school kids, not like a high-level chess player. So luckily, I was able to just do all of my shifts after school every day since there wasn't work on the weekend anyways. So we keep up this whole driving back and forth between the two states for a couple of weeks until one time we got there to California. It was earlier in the day, not at night, and Ryan told us that he wanted to have a party that night, which surprised me, but it turned out the main reason he wanted to do it was because there was another internet famous person that he wanted to invite over. So we said, sure. It sounded like it was another part of his plan to get the band going. And he said that the party would only be a little kickback, maybe 5–10 people max. So we get in the truck to go pick up this person all the way out in Hollywood, which took a long time to get there. Sat in front of the apartment, and eventually this person came out and their name was Jeffrey. So we all said, hey. Jeffrey was sitting next to me, so on the drive back, he showed me some pictures of battered meat or something on his phone. Then he told me, you want to know what happens if some bee comes at me? And as he said that, he opened up his clutch bag and there was nothing in it except for a single meat cleaver. He pinched the handle with his thumb and pointer finger and dragged it out slowly just to show me and then put it away. The other two guys in the car caught a glimpse of it and quickly averted their gazes. So when we finally pull around the last corner and drive up to the house, it is packed. There are probably 200 or 300 people at this place, so many that they obviously can't even fit inside the house. They're scattered all over the front yard and into the street. So we park, muscle our way into the front door and try and find Ryan to bring Jeffrey to him. When we finally get to him, Ryan sees him, rushes up, introduces himself and starts making small talk. So we're all standing in the hallway talking about the new band, when suddenly people start rushing to try and get to the front door to get out of the house. All of us see the commotion and try and get outside too to see what's happening. In the middle of the street, there are two guys that are yelling at each other, a guy in a button-up and a guy in a tank top. Ryan explains that one guy is from one gang and the other is from another. The tank top guy starts walking up to the button-up guy and squares up like he's ready to take the fight. The button-up guy is too, but then he sees the tank top guy's friends are walking up on the sides. As soon as he realizes that, the button-up guy pulls out a knife from his pocket and flicks it open and walks towards them. I didn't realize the car that the tank top guy was standing in front of was his car, so he reached into the car, through the window, and pulled out a gun. You gotta remember that there were probably more than 100 people outside as this was going down. So as soon as somebody started screaming, "He has a gun!" everyone started bolting in different directions. So that's a piece of part one. The rest of part one is on my personal channel if you want to see it. Part two isn't done yet. That's what we're talking about. But all in all, don't forget to number one, join the 12 Days of Christmas giveaway. Number two, subscribe to Am I the Genius? And number three, if you want to become a member, you can have access to these cool emojis and just help us keep going. But either way, thank you everyone for making us a part of your daily routine, whether it's here on YouTube or if it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you take the time to listen to us. Watch the videos or leave them playing in the background while you're gaming. It all genuinely helps. So thank you so much, and I'll update you guys as soon as possible.